In this short video, we are going to showcase how we can integrate NGFX in our application and how we can use NGRX techniques to get our data without polluting our components layer. I have already integrated the store and the dev tools for seamless experience to make sure that everything is ready for our effect integration. Before doing that, let's check our application within our browser. It has only one component and one simple h1 tag, so we keep things simpler from an HTML point of view. I have already downloaded and installed the Redux plugin so we can see my application different state and changes over the time in a graphical fashion. From an application point of view, I have a simple boilerplate code with a simpler state composed of two entries, one for the data and the other one for the error. Also, a selector file for our data selection and a reducer for each action reaction and an action file with different events from fetching event initiator and finalizer to the event of errors actions in case we have had any. My simple application have an even simpler component. Like any Redux application, the component is the action dispatcher. For that, we are importing the action, implementing the onIt interface, adding the page name or title to keep things neat, and dispatching the fetching events from our store interface. Typical NGRX pattern. To fetch the data, you would need a service file as well. For that, I have a tiny service with one job and one job only, which is to only grab the data from our public API resources. I have just recognized that I'm not using the right resource link to get the Star Wars characters. So let's fix that really quickly. Now, before moving on, let's check our API call from Postman to make sure that we have the right data. Using Postman, I can see what I can expect as a result from the public endpoint HTTP call. So far so good. What's left now is to integrate and install NGEffect, as they are a dedicated package part of the NGRX suites. Since NGRX supports Angular CLI schematic, we can use the supported schematic for a seamless download and install experience without much hassle from our side. As you can see, Angular CLI would install and update the main application module, so let's see what just happened in our application. Now the module is well imported and added to our application, as you can see. What's left now is creating the effect file itself, where it will host all our effects. We will need now to import the effect creator and the action interface and another special NGRX rxjs operator code of type. Also, an effect is a special service. That's why we are importing the injection. That's why we are importing the injector decorator. As a container, the effect is a special class with a constructor for context where we will have all our local references. Now, let's create our effect. We use a special function called createEffect, which will take a callback function. This final will need an action class to be initiated locally, which will be a simple listener to our application-based actions, meaning that any action that would be dispatched, the action class will know about it. The result will be an observable, of course, which we can pipe through it. Consider the off-type operator as a special kind of filters that will make sure that we are in fact reacting to a specific action in our application and not all of them. Next, once we do that, we will use another rxjs operator to map that action reaction and attach an HTTP service request to it. After that, we map through the data using the rxjs map operator. Now, let's dispatch another action, the finalizer action, which expects a result as a parameter. To finish, to finish up, we will use the catch error operator to simply listen to any errors while that might occur in our pipeline and dispatch the error action and give it the error object as a parameter. Now, let's make sure that our application is up and running properly after doing all those changes. And before you know it, we have an error in our application telling us that something is wrong within the application code itself. In fact, the effect root initializing typically expects something as a parameter. So let's see how we can fix that. Let's give it as an argument the newly created app effect class. Save the file now and let's try again. After building the application and it compiles successfully. Checking now the browser, let's see what we have just did. Now, in the rxjs plugin, we are noticing that the finalizer event is being dispatched, meaning that our effect is working, and we can see in the difference tab that we have some new input. Let's check now our state, and yes, congratulations, our state is now fully populated with the Star Wars characters from our HTTP request. From the browser tab, now, from the browser network tab, we can see that the request was in fact made and correctly to the correct endpoint and the expected result is in place. What's left now is to simply selecting the data and showcasing it in our component using the NGRX selectors.